Hi guys, Evan here. This is weekly update number 6 and Coatwolf newsletter number 1. I'm sure some of you are confused why you're getting this, so I'm going to explain that first. And for the people on Patreon who have been seeing these weekly updates, I apologize if I'm going to re-explain stuff that you guys have heard over again because we have two new groups of people here. I added everybody from the Chuck Hank and the San Diego Twins Indiegogo campaign from way back when, and also anybody who's ever put their email into the coatwolf.com website to get updates or our newsletter. So basically, this is being emailed out to all those people in addition to being on our Patreon, which is kind of the main reason that I've been doing it. If you sign up for our newsletter, you're going to be getting a video like this in your email the first week of every month. And if you were any of the people who contributed to the Chuck Hank and the San Diego Twins Indiegogo way back, then every week you're going to be getting one of these. So you're on a separate list. Right now, for the first week, I just put everybody on it to kind of see if I could get us all updated all at once. What has happened so far since we started doing these updates is we've been working on Canary, right, which is my follow-up to Bellflower, and which was funded a couple years ago by the Russo Brothers company, Agbo. And that's kind of been my life, and in the background we've been chipping away at San Diego Twins, trying to keep it going because we just weren't happy with it yet. And at the end of last year, we finally cracked the San Diego cut, which was like a huge thing for all of us over here, obviously, because I'll talk more about that later. But we were on deadlines for Canary because Canary has to be done by the end of this year. And because we have investors and it's the thing's rolling already, right? But when Corona stuff, same with me doing this update, we can't shoot. We everything kind of got shut down. So a couple of us realized this was our moment that we can finally take some time and wrap up San Diego Twins, and that is exactly what has happened. So the news is that San Diego Twins is going into sound. We're starting to transfer the project over to SoundMix, which means the cut is just about locked. So we're starting to move into sound next week. Which this is like, I can't believe I'm saying this out loud, because it's been so many years on that project. There's a lot to talk about in the coming weeks, so I won't go too deep into it now, but the movie is coming. They're absolutely guaranteed is going to be regular updates because obviously on our Patreon, I'll be updating everybody who's there and the Indiegogo people, and once a month, I'll be doing these more public updates. So anyway, all it is, I guess, to sum that up, there is actually, we've learned a lot of hard lessons. You know, in 2011, Bellflower got into Sundance, our worlds blew up, and, you know, we had our successful crowdfunding campaign, which was huge for us, but I didn't think we'd realize what we were being prescribed wasn't success at the time. It was almost a decade of very real and very difficult life lessons. That I guess now that I'm coming out the other side of, I'm feeling very grateful for, but it's been a journey. But basically we've taken all these lessons. I feel like we've survived them and we've learned from them. And from here forward, a lot of things that are going on over here are basically ways to streamline what we do. We can do more projects. We're going to have more products coming out that are essentially made by all of us. All the same people are making the movies. And there's just going to be a lot happening from now on. So, yeah, it has been an emotional time, I guess is what I would say. You know, the cut that I was talking about in the previous weeks that some of us internally have started watching, that is not just a cut that is cracked, but now it's getting close to the final cut, and we're kind of freaking out, being like, oh my God, this thing came together. We did it. We made something unique, and it actually works, and you connect to it, and it's funny, and it's fun, and it's kind of put me into just an emotional place, man. It's like when there's a bunch of jobs ahead of you. I'm working on 2 movies right now. Chuck Hank is a much more collaborative thing. That's why I say Canary is like my follow-up to Bellflower. But I am very, very heavily involved in every department on Chuck Hank, so it is also my movie. And with these 2 projects going on, you just put your head down and just keep pushing through and hoping that if you do that, eventually you're going to see the light at the end of the tunnel and be like, oh my God, it seemed like there was an endless number of unsolvable problems. But we kept going, and all of a sudden we saw the light, and we get to celebrate and share something with the world and all this stuff. And now, really, this week for me has been, my mind is realizing that for the first time. Like, there's like every day has been like a crazy day, like where I like have revelations where I feel like I'm seeing my life in a new light. And the few of us who have seen the cut so far, since we're taking turns showing everybody, so as we make final tweaks, you know, we have fresh eyes each time. But the handful of us that have seen the cut so far have been having these conversations that we haven't had for a long time about being like, what's next for us? Like, what? Like, oh my God, I think life is about to come back alive the way that we had hoped it would after we finished Bellflower, and we're presented with a bunch of opportunities, and so, it's been awesome but emotional, and one of the things that my mind keeps going back to, which I feel like it's something I'll probably talk about on these videos, you know, for as long as I make them, it'll come up, because it seems so universal, is fear. And that essentially just, you always think you have real problems, right? And that, you know, you're like, oh, well, I want to do this, but I can't because of this. And it all is very real. It is real. But the fact is that you would be able to see past those problems if you could somehow defeat fear, which I don't think any of us really can, like on a day-to-day basis. It's like an ongoing struggle. Which again, any new people who are watching this is kind of the quarantine edition. I'm alone in my apartment, and every week I've been doing an update and kind of just talking about whatever I'm going through. So if you're wondering why the hell I'm talking about fear, again, forgive me if this is crazy, but it's what I've been doing. So, yeah. Anyway, I'm, you know, when we made Bellflower, I remember very much, you know, I'd wanted to make my first movie. I'd had that script for years, and, you know, I was like, oh, maybe we can make more short films, and then we'll get some money from somebody who'll see our potential and actually make this thing is, you know, what we see it could be, as good as it could be, because we'll have the resources to have the sets and the crew and the whatever it is. And at some point, after years of being stuck like that, you know, I remember me very distinctly being like, what the fuck is wrong with us? Like, we're a bunch of loser kids, because that's really what we were. I mean, I don't think if I would have been who I am now and seen those kids, like, I would be like, fuck you guys, I don't trust you. Like, no one was gonna give us money, even though, you know, we were still making things to show. We thought that somehow that was gonna work, but, you know, we didn't have rich families, we didn't have any of the resources that would have been nice to have, but we didn't. It is what it is. And so at some point, the fear of going forward without money to make the movie, you know, and potentially having the movie not turn out good because we didn't have the resources we think we wanted, the pain of not making the movie became more extreme than the fear of making it in an imperfect world. And once that equation clicks, you're just like, fuck everything. I'm gonna do this no matter what. And I feel like those, you know, for me, those moments have happened a couple times in my life, and you never know when they're coming, but when they do, it's like a huge, crazy thing. It's like an important life moment. But for some reason this week, that's come back again, where I've kind of been like, all right, what held us up on San Diego? On San Diego, again, this video is going long. I think I'm coming to the end of this. It makes me self-conscious to talk this much, but I'm going to go for it this time and see how it goes. So if you guys are still watching, thank you. On San Diego, I wish that I could say that it was money or something else that was holding us back. Essentially, you know, that project was supposed to be something that all of us could work on while I was figuring out my second film, and to make something fun and exciting. And, you know, we had taken it around because, again, for some people, I think it would blow your mind to know what it was like to be me after Sundance, after a movie went to Sundance that we made with no money and got good reviews and awards and you know, distribution, all this stuff. Like, every single place in town, every single company, all these important people, I mean, a lot of famous people had all just constantly reaching out to me, being like, come, like, let me take you to dinner, come to our office, let's talk about working together. And so all these people are like so intensely like after you, you know, I mean, which is a lot of it's nice because before that I didn't know anybody, never met anybody like this before in my life. I didn't know anybody who worked in Hollywood, and all of a sudden I knew all of them, and so I had thought for sure Canary, my second film that I wanted to do, was going to get funded by somebody in some capacity, and the same with San Diego Twins. And we're having trouble with San Diego, but also that one was supposed to be a collaborative project that we're bringing other people in who hadn't directed before. It wasn't like quite as easy of a sell because it didn't have me on across the board being like, this is my next film. And so I was kind of like, well, it makes sense that this didn't get funded. But once we did our Indiegogo campaign, everything turned around. It was like you guys essentially handed us our lives. Like like all of a sudden we weren't waiting on anybody anymore. And so I wish I could say there was some problem. I wish I could be like, oh, we didn't have enough money. Yeah, that's true. I mean, just probably worth mentioning once that I don't know what you guys think out there. Maybe this is obvious or maybe this will sound crazy, but our movies are made by volunteers. Like every once in a while someone gets paid like a couple $100 for a day's work, but 99 out of 100 days that are worked is just volunteers, just coming to work because we want to, because we care about the movies, because it's what we do. And Chuck Hank and the San Diego Twins was no different, if not, it is the prime example of that. We had raised $130,000 on Indiegogo, and that was all spent on like literally hard cost, being like, we need to buy these things. And the rest of us worked for all these years on the movie without being paid. It just is interesting because now that we're coming out and this project's about to be done and my second film is almost done, I'm kind of looking back, like I said, this sigh of relief that I'm getting that is like a life event. Knowing that we're not just like under the weight of all these projects being like, we're going to keep pushing no matter what. Now we're on the other side being like, oh my God, we're about to be able to share these with people. That's why we do this, And so I was thinking about what mistakes have I made? So for Canary, on the other hand, it's a completely opposite story. Like, I feel like a lot of people, even, probably a lot of people that are here watching this video are here because of what we did with Bellflower, that we had went with nothing and been like, us, our friends, the people that we know, we care about movies, and we're not gonna wait for anybody else, we're not gonna wait for money, we're just gonna do this, nothing's gonna stop us. And it's exactly what we did. But then how funny is it that right now I'm realizing that even though that was almost what we were known for doing, I went and did the exact opposite right afterwards. Like, we got into Sundance and all that stuff happened, and I was like, oh, well, we're not gonna have to do that again now. Because all this happened. Now we can get paid, we can get funding, we can get all those extra crutches and all those things that we know are gonna polish our movie up and make it better. And I'm just now realizing how wrong that was. So I spent from around early 2012 until I think it was 2018 when Canary was getting funded and doing these meetings with everybody in town, just relentlessly pushing, being like, somebody is going to fund this fucking movie come hell or high water. Because I wasn't even asking for that much money compared to all the projects everybody else was talking to me about, doing these bigger things. And I was like, no, I just want to do this little thing. Tell me somebody trusts me enough. I made a movie with no money, and it turned out someone's got to trust me enough to give me a small chunk of money to make a risky movie. But nobody got it. Literally nobody. Like, everybody who came out to us, all the people who wanted to work with me, they just don't get it. Whatever it is about my projects, they're strange or whatever they are, someone else can label them. I just know that people don't understand them. It freaks people out. Like, people who have been courting me sometimes for months, taking me out to dinner regularly, as soon as I showed them the script and the materials that we had shot for Canary, have still not talked to me. It's been years. They just like, you could see it on their face. They were like, oh fuck, I just found out Evan's crazy. Or like, that's what it felt like. I don't know. You're gonna have to ask them. Maybe they'll come tell me after the movie comes out if it turns out. They'll be like, oh, I thought you were crazy. But whatever it is, it's been a nightmare. And so how crazy is it that, to do what we did on Bellflower, only to decide to prescribe to myself to go right back to waiting for money again. And so what I just realized now, again, this week of revelations that I'm having, is that we've had a version of Canary finished, a full feature-length film that I made with, that me, Olivia, Joel, Chelsea, Jet, basically all the same people that made Bellflower, we just continued and made this crazy version of Canary with no money. and it was supposed to be an experiment, and that's what it was. But we've had a cut that we actually are really happy with and we like watching. It's strange, but we've had it since I think sometime in 2012. And now, after all this time, like 2018, we got funded, and I feel like I should say something because after all the nightmare we went through, I have to say thank you, whether they're going to see this or not, to the Russo brothers and Albert and Mike, who were the people who brought it in to their new company, Agbo, because everybody was scared of this project except for them. So I'm still in my mind being like, I can't wait till I get the final version of the movie and they get to see that they did the right thing. I hope. But even that having happened, it's not worth it. Was it 2012 to 2018? That's 6 years. 6 years of going around being like, I'm going to get this movie funded. I've wasted 6 years of my life. And now, for some reason this week, for the first time, I just saw that it was fear. I had a version of the movie that I was showing all my friends and people in my world, and everybody was having like these intense emotional reactions to it where they couldn't stop crying after watching it and they didn't know why. And like, the movie was interesting. It wasn't just like some like garbage thing that we made, but it was experimental. So, but now all of a sudden I'm realizing in 2012, 2013, I could have like called around and been like, hey, does someone want to fund a better version of this to finish this as a bigger movie? And the second that it didn't seem like it was going to happen, why would I waste my life doing that? If I really wasn't afraid, and it wasn't actually fear stopping me, what I would have done is I would have taken that movie and I would have literally just put it online, meaning like, I'm sure I could get it on iTunes. I can make some phone calls and probably get it on Netflix if they just gave me no money for it, and on YouTube, and just made it available and be like, hey, this was an experiment. Like, what do you guys think? I made this and here it is. And, there's enough people out there that I bet even just, getting a couple dollars off people buying it online, that probably would have gotten us a good chunk of money to keep going into whatever next thing we were excited about. And also, just knowing how, the world works and excitement works, releasing a movie, even if it's crazy, gets people excited. All those same people that were talking to me would have been calling me, ringing my phone off the hook, being like, what the hell? You just released out of nowhere without telling anybody another experimental feature? Like, you're fucking crazy. We want to work with you. It would have made everything. And if at that point I was like, I can't get the bigger version of Canary, which is what we're making now, what I was trying to get funded all that time, if I couldn't get that out of my head, it would have still made even that happen faster, where it would have been like, oh, you know what? Actually, I think the next thing we're doing is the next version of this. And again, like I said, this week was gonna be complicated, and I think because I'm processing a lot of stuff, but it all feels like really important. But specifically doing this thing where I'm reaching out to a lot of people who either haven't heard from us, a lot of you probably don't even know who I am. You're gonna have to like do Google search if you're interested in what I'm saying. But just that all these people that supported the Indiegogo, obviously the Patreon people who we've been doing this thing together already, and anybody else who cared enough to put their email address into our website that just sits there on the internet. You guys have never been those people. Like, you guys have never been those people that when, if we have something to share, like, it's so funny, real people like us that just like watching things, we know what's good, we know what we want. Like, we don't get scared of a project. It's only the money people that do. It's the people in Hollywood who it's their actual job. They're supposed to be professionals picking like what the best movie is to make, and they just it's like you put a dollar sign into your brain and it makes you be like, and nothing works anymore because they got their own fear they're dealing with. They're just worried about getting fired because they made a bad decision about where to put their money or something like that. But whatever it is, essentially, I think my big thing is that I realize what this has all been a long setup for is that I don't want to wait for anybody ever again, and it doesn't seem like it'll ever be productive. Like I said, I think having us being known as almost the DIY guys that don't wait for anybody, and we're like, we're just gonna go, and then me almost turning blind and putting myself in the prison of waiting for someone in Hollywood to greenlight my next film for 6 years. It's been a hard lesson, and it's kind of funny in retrospect. But, oh, that's my last note. Yeah, essentially, so far, you know, you guys are the only audience that matters. So it just suddenly seemed like this philosophy that I've taken in a lot of us on this side of basically being like, we care about movies, we don't give a fuck about anything else, and that's what we focus on. And you know, we do these outreach things from time to time, and we try and be good about it. But at the end of the day, if our energy's been taken by the movies, we don't do this stuff. I think that was wrong. I think that essentially the two things that I'm taking away from this is that you guys are the most important audience, and doing this little bit of thing that makes me uncomfortable, and I'm gonna probably regret putting this super long video up, being like, you know, you overthought it, but whatever, I'm gonna do it anyway. That this seems like this is what's important, and to take the lesson of fear, like, you know, like if someone's like, hey, I'll give you $1,000 to make the thing you care about right now, or you can wait till 2 years from now, I'll give you $1 million. Dude, you take the $1,000. You've got to just, whatever it is, you just go with what you have and you make it work, and everything always leads to the next thing. And I feel like that's a lesson I've learned so many times, and it's just funny because it's like, you could be the craziest, most suicidal, death wish, like, lunatic, and it could be totally real, but when it comes to doing something you actually care about, the fear will still stop you without you ever even knowing that it happened. Which is just, it's, again, a lesson that I feel like I just learned again, and I'm gonna be very upset if I forget it. So, sharing that with you guys. Anybody who actually made it this far, especially from the new people, hello, I hope you guys are well. Again, thank you to everybody who has supported us in any way. It's huge. You guys have saved us more than once in ways that I will explain in more detail later. Once, you know, have a movie out and have some real good news, I'll be like, you guys have no idea how bad it got. But anyway, again, I hope you guys are well and not too stressed about the world turning back on, or happy about the world turning back on, whatever it is. I'll see you guys next week or next month.